and that's because the news of the day, again, wasn't broken by you, but you added a lot of context. So let's start with the context of the story. The Canucks making this announcement on Tuesday morning. Canucks forward JT Miller is to take an indefinite leave for personal reasons. Right now, our sole focus is making sure that JT knows the entire organization is here to support him. Out of respect for JT, we will have no further comment at this time. That was the statement we got from Patrick Allvin. Naturally, that led to a lot of speculation, but Patrick, your reporting can confirm for us at least that this isn't a, and I don't know exactly how I want to word this, but it's not like a substance abuse problem or anything like that where he's going into the player assistance program. What can you tell us?
Yeah, just to be clear, the Players Assistance Program is available to anybody, basically. It doesn't have to just be about substance abuse. But yeah, that was one thing that was immediately underlined to me when I started asking some questions around was, no, this is not a substance issue. This is not a drugs issue, not an alcohol issue. It's a player that needs some time. And, it is all a bit unusual. We're not used to seeing guys just step away and take a break. They would have gone on IR. There didn't seem any reason why he doesn't go on IR. You still get the roster spot. But at the moment, it appears he's non-roster. Anyway, yeah, JT Miller, I guess, dealing with some sort of overall, he's been dealing with some kind of, I guess, neck problem. That was obvious. And as you can look and see, he hasn't been playing as sort of in the way that we expect him to play. Yes, of course, he's still made some mistakes and he's going to make mistakes, but there was sort of that energy that going through people. Rick Tocchet's talked a lot about that, and I started wondering if he was talking about JT Miller. But you watched how he was playing, and he just wasn't, he wasn't playing with the same abandon, the same aggression that we've been used to. And still picking up points, right? Like, setting up goals. Think about the Miller tap in a tip goal on the power play the other night. Like, still doing stuff. But just the way everything kind of sagged, I think, in Sunday, it seems like things came to a head. And it's a player that in all this has sort of asked to take some time away, sit back, figure out what's going on with him, I guess, and get himself a little bit healed up. I don't think he's going to make this road trip. Certainly stay home, a chance to sort of just reset himself is what it was put to me.
It's obviously a little strange. Like, we don't often see this where a player takes a leave of absence. Again, you brought up IR. You also brought up that, like, we've seen players enter the player assistance program, as you said off the top, and I misspoke a little bit there. Like, players enter it for mental health reasons as well, and it's just a strange situation. So I guess at this time we don't have much more.
I think strange is the wrong word. It's unusual, right?
Unusual,
I mean, we have seen players take leaves in the past, like. You can go back. Craig Anderson, Dominic Moore both took leaves when their wives were ill. But on the other hand, as it was pointed out to me, like, technically Dylan Dubé was put on a personal leave before all the news came cascading down on him about being accused of being involved in the World Junior scandal. So, there's a lot of wiggle room in moments like this. Certainly nothing to suggest it's anything close to what Dubé or anything like that. That, as I said, as I've been sort of told, this is a player who needed essentially a moment to take a deep breath, reset himself. He's been dealing with this injury. I don't know if the break will heal the injury, but certainly a chance to, as it was said to me, reset himself.
A lot of the focus is going to be on what his absence means as far as on ice, lineup, power play, things of that nature. But how much do you think his absence will also be felt just from an emotional leadership standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, he certainly has been an important point for the team emotionally. We know Rick Tocchet leans on him to drive the bus from that standpoint. And that's why I found myself thinking about, was Rick Tocchet talking about JT Miller when he was making these references lately about being soft and guys not going through players. That's the expectation. That's what the player needs to be. And you're right. Like, and we like think of it. We project the emotion ourselves onto that, and what we see from the players and how they play. Yeah, certainly the player is going to be missed. Interestingly, Elias Pettersson was asked, I understand this morning, about how much would they miss person, and he focused in on the player. But we're going to miss the player. The way the player plays has meant a lot to how the Canucks want to play, and he just hasn't been that guy.
Patrick, a lot of people don't know what the word indefinite means, apparently, because a lot of people asking, how long is this going to be? We don't know the answer to that question, but you did
No.
report that it doesn't sound like he's going to be going on this 6-game road trip coming up.
Yeah, and I see a certain person with the name R&D has said, he's heard the same thing. So I think he's, there's essentially what 10 days that it's a big upcoming road trip. They play tonight. They don't play again until Saturday in Ottawa, but they're playing a bunch of games next week. Obviously his homecoming game in Pittsburgh, one of them. But I don't think he can be playing in any of those games. So the indefinite question obviously does bring me back to the time I emailed a member of the Whitecaps PR staff asking how many years is a multi-year contract, and they sent me the definition being more than one. So indefinite, I believe, means we don't know. And Rick Tocchet said as much this morning. We don't know when he's going to be back. But obviously, it's not a few days. This is something that's going to be of some substantial amount of time, which again comes back to kind of being it is a bit odd that the fact that the designation of being non-roster, not on IR, but not in the player assistance program, at least nobody's saying it is. You kind of go, there's something in the gap here. I don't know if we'll ever be able to fill that one in. Certainly, if he goes into the player assistance program, that's it. That doesn't get discussed. It's up to him to discuss what he wants. This one is a bit of a different approach, and as I said, a mildly unusual one.
There's no single player that's going to be able to replace JT Miller for the Canucks. Of course, a lot of the pressure and expectation is going to now fall on Elias Pettersson's shoulders.
Yeah.
But outside of Pettersson, are there a couple of guys, 2 or 3, that come to mind as far as, all right, these forwards are going to need to help fill JT's shoes by committee here?
Well, there's the literal, Pia Suter, I guess, slides in to be your number 2 center, sort of job share with him and Teddy Bluger. Suter obviously being much more offensively talented than Bluger. That's the obvious nuts and bolts one, but you think about how other guys need to step up offensively. I mean, Connor Garland obviously is also a question mark, with his wife being imminently ready to give birth to a baby, and that will take some of his attention away. Undoubtedly, I can tell you that, having done that a couple times. There's that. You need a guy like Garland to step it up. I mean, obviously, Jonathan Lekarmaki. I mean, like, the kid's been interesting. I mean, it's going to be interesting to me to see how he adjusts. I think Miller had kind of taken him under his wing a little bit as that kind of, if you want the sort of metaphor, fatherly element, but the veteran player trying to show the young talent kid how to get it done. Lekarmaki, I think, shows some good flashes. We can definitely see the kid needs to put on some weight because he's been throwing off the puck in a few puck battles. I look at guys like Danton Heinen, Dakota Joshua coming back. I mean, they're both wingers, but they're guys that actually can pick up the slack on faceoffs. They're both kind of pretty adept winger faceoff takers. It's going to be, you're just not going to replace the player. It's just that simple. Like, you're going to be able to pinch hit here and there. Obviously, Brock Besser can't come, Brock Besser coming back, which hopefully is soon, since he skated this morning, and hopefully he's on the road trip. That can't come soon enough. They need his offensive abilities. Is there a role for Besser to play in the middle? I mean, certainly there's been, I know, noise in the past talking about, he's another guy who's interesting in terms of his abilities in the faceoff. Is he a guy that can slot into the middle? They don't really have an obvious fit. They've obviously got a few guys down on the farm who are sort of veteran grinder types, maybe Max Sasson type, but there's nobody obviously ready to step in and take on a huge offensive role. And so the way this team plays is going to be much more on the margins, playing tight. Think about that hockey they were trying to play in last spring, which they weren't exactly pleased to play, but they were playing very tight, checking 3-2, 2-1 hockey, and I think we're going to end up seeing a lot more of that.
Patrick, good stuff as always. Thanks so much for joining us. Canucks Rangers tonight. Check out Patrick over on Blue Sky. Blue Sky.
Yeah, bud.
Now. I see that. Everybody's over on Blue Sky.
That's all I want to be. Yeah.
Get with the program, Harm. Join Blue Sky. Right. PJ, thanks for doing this. Appreciate it.
Have a great show, guys.
There he is, Patrick Johnston of the province.